All right. First and foremost, give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. The belongs to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well and who is worthy to be counted for the belongers. Peace and salutations to you brothers out there pushing this truth wholeheartedly and sincerely and full of the gospel. It's Brother Gabari from the Indiana camp coming back at you again with another sit down. All right, and I'm gonna entitle this I asked ChatGPT how did Rome fall. All right. Um I'm probably gonna shorten it up or whatever, but that's basically the gist of the video. As you see, I did ask ChatGPT. It says, "What is a list of things that made Rome fall?" All right, and we understand that what Rome is now being revitalized as America. You know, it coming back in its stead, which we're gonna prove that through the scriptures. You know, it's coming back in Rome's stead as being that continuation of Rome. You see, and America is gonna fall just like how Rome fell. You see, because Rome was ruled by Esau Edom. You know, so Rome is gonna fall just like how it fell back then. You see, and people thought Rome wasn't gonna fall, and Rome was one of the greatest kingdoms upon the planet Earth. You know, people always talk about Rome wasn't built in a day, going into like it being so powerful, it being so great, but it took time to get up there. So Rome is known to be a great and powerful kingdom. Scriptures call it diverse. you know but at the end of the day it still failed. You see, so in America, just like its predecessors, it's gonna fall. All right, without further ado, we're gonna hop straight into it. So I asked it a list. It basically gave it what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 categories of recurring problems that happen, and you can see these recurring problems and now today. Just to show you what type of sign and season that we're in. You see, so the same thing that was happening back then that was wrong is the same things happening now, man. The scripture says what? There is nothing new under the sun. All right. And Esau, and showing that what he was the Romans back in today, because guess what? He's doing the same thing all over again. You know, he's going through the same mistakes that he did back in Rome. All right. But we understand that this all is happening because of prophecy. All right. So let's go ahead and get straight into it. It says political problems. One was corruption and unstable leadership, civil war, and ineffective administration, which goes into, basically all hidden, one scripture I can think of. Let me grab that right quick. Um, Wait, where am I at? Okay, here we are. This is Mark chapter 3 and verse 24. It says, if a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. See, and you see where it says corrupt and unstable leadership. All right, and civil war. All right, so what? People are going to be fighting with one another. It's going to be civil war, where civil war basically means a war within your own country. Let's say if you have a house and you get into it with your children, or your children's getting into it with the mother, that would be considered a civil war, because it's in your house, but it's a war between in your country, so to speak. Which the scriptures talks about that. All right, it says what? Invading one another, friends shall fight one against another like enemies. All right, it says oh, another one is, it says what? It says the empire became too large for its government to manage effectively. Yeah, man, that's another thing too. What? They spread it themselves thin. All right, America, Rome, they had how many bases around the world? All right, and America is following that same stead, where they're having all type of military bases around the whole entire world, and they spread it themselves way too thin, where it was hard to manage everything. All right, so what? America is guilty and falling right in that same lot that the Romans did. You see? All right, let's go to the next one. It says economy issues. It says heavy taxation, inflation, decline in trade. It says reliance on slave labor. All right, so that heavy taxation and inflation goes hand in hand, man. Because are we not going through an inflation right now where fuck shit a fucking a lean pack of ground beef can be anywhere between 13 to then $20. You know, depending on what type of brand you get and what type of cuts the leanness. You know, whether it's 93, 87, all the way to 70%. All right, 70% being more cheap because it has a lot more fat in it. But when you cook the meat, it's gonna, a lot of that fat's gonna burn off. But anyways, the point I was making is that the level of taxation and the level of inflation that we're in is showing you it's just showing you that what America, like I've been saying, America and Rome are synonymous with one another. You know, let me see. It says the funds armies and public works, tax crash farmers and small businesses. Yeah, man, we just went through that in 2020. A lot of businesses just shut down in 2020 because of the pandemic and everything. All right. In fact, let me see. This is this is Second Ezra chapter 6 verse 22. It says, "And suddenly shall the sown place appear unsown, and the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty." Why? Because what, people aren't going to be able to afford, to pick the food and to fill up the storehouses. Which the grocery stores only has about what, 3 days supply of food. You know, but all that food is going to get bought up, and the thing is, once something becomes in rarity, the price of it skyrockets. If I have the only loaf of bread in the if I have the only loaf of bread in the whole entire city, then I'm gonna charge a pretty hefty price for that loaf of bread because it's rarity. The reason why food isn't supposed to be so cheap and so inexpensive is because it's everywhere. You can go to how many grocery stores you have in your city, you can get whatever you want from anywhere. So usually it's just it's gonna be arranged around maybe how much everybody else's is. But if those things are more rare, it's gonna be way more expensive. All right. So what? Rome also had dealt with that, in the taxation. What people were complaining about? What, being taxed heavy? You know, it seems like we pay for everything, which is taxes is just a fancy word for what is it? Tribute. You know, and you pay tribute to your ruler. We had it back in the ancient world. Where we had certain nations paying us tribute. You know, paying us because what, we were just better than them. You see, or we were over them. All right. So that's just the way things are happening. It says what, the decline of trade. I mean, do I have to really go into that? Do I have to really say it? You know, what is that? The tariffs. You see, the tariffs. What? I was going to say Obama, Trump increasing um tariffs on other countries. And other countries are like, listen, man, it's not even worth the trading with America anymore. You know, when we're seeing the works, or we're gonna see the full fruit of that in these up and coming months. All right. Listen, man, to boil everything down, I don't care what the facade America puts on, saying, "Oh no, everything is working out, everything is getting there. We're actually doing better." No, man, any of these things are looking like it's going to be better. What the scripture says in the book of Thessalonians: peace and safety, then sudden destruction. So actually, to be honest, really things are going to actually be looking like it's getting better. But then that's when the destruction is going to happen. That's when something is going to be brought forth, and everything's just going to open up like the floodgates. You see. So actually, you the looking for a safe and effective way to live your life. That's when you should be at your utmost. That's what you should be scared the most, because you can be looking and you be like, well, damn, I got to, you're gonna be, that's when things are gonna really hit. Scripture says, what, in thy security, the Lord shall strike you through. The Lord is basically gonna bring them plagues upon you when you think everything is secure, everything is safe. You see? All right. Military problem. It says this is overextension, decline in discipline, reliance on mercenaries, barbaric invasion. Yep. So this is well, military problems. So what it says, one was overextension and decline in discipline. You know, these our army ain't that great and powerful army anymore. Matter of fact, what does the scripture say in let me grab that right quick. It says the mighty men of Babylon, which is what the army, the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. Let's look at the word forborne right quick. The word forborne means to stop, cease, decease, forego, cease to, leave off, undone, forbear. Also another word to fall, leave off, to forsake, unoccupied. See, so the mighty men of Babylon, the so-called America's army, says what they have forborne, they have stopped, they have ceased to fight. It says they have remained in their holes. Their might has failed. They became as women, right, man? Because our military is a fucking joke. You know, we're letting moles in there. We're letting what is it? Women join the military. We're letting what is it? What are those? Transformers. They're joining the military. You know, our military is a joke, man, and we don't really know how hand to hand combat or actually a form of fighting anymore. You know, where these other countries are running circles around us. We rely on what drones and missiles. You know, that's why it says and they remained in their holes because what you can just send a fucking drone and do all your work for you. You can send a missile into the destroy the land. You don't know actually how to go out there and actually fight anymore. That's not even done anymore. You know, it's basically whoever got the biggest missile is gonna win. You see? And it says that what it was overextension. We'll go back to it. Overextension and decline in discipline. So our military they don't have the discipline they did back when Esau was coming up into power. All right, reliance on mercenaries. You know, which is what which America they have they do that a lot. They rely on matter of fact they show you in that movie The Purge. You know, they relied on missionaries to bring forth what they want. So you have what these certain agent provocateurs, you know, go out and do certain things for Esau so they can pass certain laws. You know, and then it says what the barbarians invasions. You know, that goes into what these other nations. They're going to be the ones who's going to destroy America. All right, let's grab that right quick. All right, this is Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. It says, "And the 10 horns," it says, which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. The whore represents America, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. See, so these other nations, you know, even nations of Esau, they're gonna hate America, and they're gonna be the ones who ultimately destroy America. You see, like I said, America is coming in that stead of Rome. All right. Matter of fact, where's that at? Matter of fact, it is in the 17th chapter. Mm, or is it 13? I think it's 13. Yep. Here this is this Revelation 13 and 2. It says, "And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and the feet was into a bear," which the leopard goes into the Greek Empire, you know, the being the beginning of Esau's rulership. It says, "And the feet of it as a bear," which goes into Rome, which is Rome, which goes into Russia. You know, Russia's being the end of this place. It was what ultimately, like I said, was going to be one of the main key figureheads to destroy this place. And the feet is being the end of anything. All right. It says, "In the mouth as the mouth of a lion," which is lion goes into Great Britain, you know, where it gets its power from. All right. "And the dragon gave him power and gave him his power and his seat and that great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, which is what the Roman Empire, the ancient Roman Empire. All right, it was wounded to death because what it ultimately got taken down for 1,000 years. It talks about that in the Book of Revelations, the 20th chapter. All right, and what they were going to be quiet and put down in the bottomless pit for 1,000 years. All right, that was what that was that head being wounded unto death. But it says what it says, and his deadly wound was healed. How was it healed? Coming back into the Roman Empire. All right, that's why you had when Esau came back and started ruling when the Byzantine Empire fell. What did they named that period of time? They call it the Renaissance, which goes into the word rebirth. All right, basically revitalizing the Roman Empire, which somebody said that I can't exactly remember who said it, but if you brothers, who I'm talking about, you can put it in the comments, Baba Shah. Somebody said when everything was said and done after the fall of the Byzantine Empire and certain I think the British when they finished, they said one of them the elites said we have successfully revitalized the Roman Empire. I forgot exactly who said that, and then every time I look it up, they take it off, But somebody had made that statement. All right, so that's to show you that what America is what that deadly wound. It says, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So America is that deadly wound healed. All right. Matter of fact, let me also get this since I grabbed that. Mm, yep, this is Daniel chapter 7 and verse 8. It says, I considered the horn, and behold, there came up among them a little horn. Seeing that little horn goes into America. All right. And these horns represents powers, power structure, All right, matter of fact, I should have got 7. It talks about the Roman Empire. Verse 7, it says, and after this I saw in night the vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, which is going into what? The Roman Empire. It was dreadful and terrible and strong exceedingly. Like I said before, Rome was one of the greatest kingdoms upon the planet Earth that at that time. You see, it says, and it shall. It's lucky. It says, and it had great iron teeth, and it devoured and break into pieces. What their military might was unmatched, at the time, and stomped the residue of the with it, and stomped the residue with the feet of it, and was diverse from all the beasts that was before it. Why? Because they had a thing called a senate, all right, where they had 100 men at the time elected. All right, it talks about that in I want to say the book of Maccabees, yeah, and they elected a man, to be rulers over them, which we still have to this day, which is a presidency, and that's just further proving that what a Rome, America is Rome coming back, and all these scriptures I'm getting right now is just synonymous to show you that when Rome was had failed for a thing and was undergo for 1,000 years, that it's actually coming right back into power as America though, but it's not going to be called Rome, it's going to be called America. You see, everything that Rome that happened to Rome is going to happen right to America because it was prophesied. All right. It says, and all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. And I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among another little horn. See, that other little horn is represents America. See, what back in Revelations, what the deadly wound was healed. Rome fell, but then what through prophecy, it came back up. It revamped itself like a phoenix. It came back up and basically came as America. All right. Um, what is it? Matter of fact, let me go back to that Revelations. Well, because what are the scripture says? What should heal? Where is it at? Is it 12? It's like, bear with me for a minute. Oh yeah, here it is. Um, Revelation 17:10, it says, "And these were 7 kings. 5 has fallen," right? And this is goes into the 7 heads and the 10 horns, you know. But at this time it says what? 5 are fallen, which the 5 kings that fell at the time was a Germanium Major, Germanium Minor, um Greek, Spanish, and the French. All right. And the Rome was the sixth ruling at that time, you know. And the seventh was what? Great Britain that hasn't came yet. All right. It says in the seven, and yep, and these 7 are kings. 5 has fallen, which I just named, and 1 is, which is Rome at that time was ruling, and the other is not yet come, which was what? Great Britain, because they hasn't came to power yet. It says, and when he cometh, he must continue a short space, right? Because Great Britain was, I think, the shortest out of all of them that ruled. You see, and then what? America came out of that seventh, which it's gonna say right here. It says, "And the beast was and is not, and is not, even is the eighth, and is of the 7 that goeth into perdition," right? Because what? America came out of Great Britain. All right. If you don't know that, what happened in July 4th, 1776? You see, so America is coming out of Britain as the 8th, which is of the 7. All right. So it just shows you right there that what? America is synonymous with Rome. Okay. So all these plagues, everything that hit Rome, it's gonna hit America. You know. All right. Where were we at? Um. Yep. Culture, society, and culture issues. It says class division, herbal decay, and decline in civil duties. You know, which is basically just going into the people being against one another. You know, we all know what scripture what's a real good scripture to hit them that in. You got Second Ezra chapter 15 and verse 16. It says, "For there shall be sedition amongst men." Matter of fact, let me go up a little bit. Verse 15. It says, "For the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another." Class division, decline in civil duties. It says another, and swords in their hands, for it shall be sedition amongst men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings or princes. See, they're not gonna care if you're a president, if you're a mayor. All right, they're not gonna care if you're a senate. You know, if you're a celebrity, none of that's not gonna matter to these people. You know, they says what? Class division: the rich versus the poor, black versus white, uh, 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 um, Democrat versus Republican. You know, because everybody's going to be at odds with one another. All right. Um, they shall not regard your princes or your kings or princes, and the courses of their actions, the things that they're going to be doing, shall stand in their power. So guess what? If they want to do something, then guess, and they have the power to do it, they're going to do it. All right. They're not gonna be believing on the law of justice no more. You know, they're gonna be tired of hearing that. They're gonna take actions in their own hands. You see? So that's gonna be what? The class division and the decline in civil duties. People ain't gonna be want to listen to, you know, you think your boss, if your boss telling you something, your boss a 4 foot, you know, a 4 foot, 200 pound fat little dwarf, you think you'll be taking that, and you a 6'4", you know, you go to the gym, you look like you can fucking bench 14 of him. You think you're gonna be taking his shit? No, man. And in that time, man, you seen what, like, referring back to the movie Purge. You know, a lot of people was taking people's lives that they had the power to because they was tired of their shit. You know, even if they wasn't tired of their shit, if I'm stronger than you, I'm better than you. It's gonna literally be a no holds barn in that day, man. That's why in that day, man, we're really gonna have to rely on Yahweh Bashim Yahshua to protect us and watch over us. You know, and Urban Decay. Oh, what? That's in Isaiah talks about that. What is it? Where am I at? Uh, Isaiah 14 and 11. It says, "Thy pomp that pomp is brought down to the grave, which is thy pride, and thy noise of thy vows. It says the worm is spread under thee, and the worm covereth thee. See, so that worm is spread up underneath thee and covereth thee. It's so much your infrastructure, man. See, so America, what its infrastructure is gonna go from bad to worse. You know, it seems like it takes fucking every 5 years they patch the street that I live on. I'm like, goddamn, like bro, you know, and I technically stay on the main street. You see, and it's the infrastructure of America is completely through, man. You know, and that was one of the greatest reasons that Rome fell too, man. The infrastructure was going from shit to a handbag. You see, I hope I said that right. I know it's a saying in the world. Things is going from shit to a handbag. I don't know exactly how I said it. I've only heard it a couple times, but I hope I'm saying that right. But anyways, um, yep, it says global political and external pressure. It says plagues, rising powers outside of Rome. Yep. So what? You have these other nations like what? China, Russia. You know what? You have them joining the BRICS. You know, so they're trying to do certain things that's outside of America, and America sees that, man. And then ultimately, you got what? You got the greatest empire that's finna come into rulership right happening right in America's backyard, which is what the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans coming back to who they truly are. All right. Yes, we are building an empire. The scripture says that each single one of us brothers is a brick to the foundation of in the kingdom of heaven. All right, all starting with who? The chief cornerstone, who was Yahweh Shah. All right, but the kingdom of heaven is with us, is within us. So we're we're building a kingdom of heaven now, man. Right in Esau's kingdom. So when Yahweh Shah comes back to deliver us, our kingdom has already been established. All we have to do is manifest it. All right. So what Esau is and he's seeing this, and best believe the scripture says in Revelations 12 what he's gonna come down with great wrath, knowing that he has a short time. You know, so hey, listen, everything is gonna be let loose. You know, ain't nothing gonna be being held back, because this devil knows that he doesn't have too much longer to rule. You know, matter of fact, where was I in that? Come back to the second Ezra. Oh, this is a good one. Second Ezra 15:11. It says, "But I will bring them with a mighty hand and stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof." See, and the Lord's going to bring all them plagues that happened to Egypt, man. They're going to come back here. They're going to come back here and smite this place. All right. This is Second Ezra 16:15. It says, "The fire uh it says the fire is kindled and shall not be put out till it consume the foundations of the earth, like as an arrow which is shot of a mighty archer turneth not backwards. Even so the plagues that shall be sent amongst the earth shall not return again." See, so what these plagues that is sent uh 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 um these plagues that is sent to America, they're not going to turn back. You see, each single plague is gonna hit their mark. Just like an arrow is shot by a mighty archer. See, the Lord's gonna put his spirit upon those missiles, and every one shall hit their mark. You know, they're not gonna miss or be or collide with one another, as it says in the book of Joel. Everyone is gonna hit because the Lord ordained it so. All right. So these plagues that's gonna be happening, that was part of one of Rome's falling, is is going to be part of America's falling. All right. All right. Last one is what structural weakness. It's a splitting of empires, inflexible system. You know, I already read that scripture. What the dividing of kingdoms, it shall not stand. You know, and what you have, what you have all types of division in this place. You know, you got the vax versus the unvax. You got the Democrats versus the Republicans. You got You got the straight versus the LGBT. You know, you got the pro life versus pro choice. You know, this whole entire place is completely divided. You know, so man, reading what ChatGPT had to say how Rome fell. And remember, matter of fact, I should have asked it. I should have asked it. Is America is falling the same way? But I already know what it's gonna say. You know, not necessarily. But whatever. Through a spiritual eye, we can see it. You know, through a spiritual eye, if the Lord gives you the eyes to see it, you'll be able to see the synonymous between America and Rome, and see how it's basically trickling down the same exact way. All right, so that's all I had. Lord willing, this video was edifying for you brothers out there. And until next time, I want to say shalom.